Jackal's Revenge by Iain Gale. Read by Stephen Thorne. Chapter 1. Dawn rose over the pass of Thermopylae, as it had since the beginning of time, as it had on that day 2,000 years ago, when Leonidas's Spartans had died to the last man, holding this great natural strong-point against the invading Persian hordes. This morning, though, something was different, for with the dawn came a new sound on the air, drowning out the bees and the bird-song and shattering the peace of an Attic morning. It was a high-pitched whine, descending earthwards out of the sky, the sound of modern war, the clarion call of a new and terrible barbarism which had laid claim to the civilized world. Captain Peter Lamb heard the sound and looked up in alarm. He knew it only too well, had become familiar with it in the fields and on the roads of France less than a year ago, and it made his blood run cold. Without a second glance he yelled across the pass to where his men were sitting, pulling through their guns. They'd been on stand-to all night, waiting for the German attack that was sure to come. Their faces were drawn with exhaustion, but for all their fatigue, they had already heard the sound. The younger men, the new recruits and replacements, were still looking skywards, not certain what they heard, although it was not new to them. The old hands, though, were already on their feet as the words left Lamb's lips. "Stukas, take cover!" The first bombs fell seconds later as the whine of the sirens fixed beneath the wings of the hated aircraft reached its crescendo. The men cowered in their funk holes and in any space they could find in the unforgiving rocky landscape, their hands over their ears and their tin hats, their mouths open to lessen the shock of the blast, their bodies tucked up into tight balls. As the bombs hit, their hammer-blow explosions dug deep into the baked white rock, sending lethal shards in all directions, and the men, even though they'd not been hit, mouthed their oaths. They shut their eyes tight, and two of the younger ones tried to push themselves into gaps in the rocks. Tucked into his own tiny slit trench, Company Sergeant Major Jim Bennett saw them, and ran across to them at a crouch, before speaking through the din hard into their faces. "Now then, Dawlish, Carter, you don't want the captain to see you hiding like that, do you?" "No, Sergeant Major." "No, Sergeant Major, I shall bloody well think not. Now bloody well brace yourselves and look like soldiers. They'll be gone soon enough." Bennett swore quietly. It was bravado, of course, but sometimes he thought keeping up morale was more like being a wet nurse. He thought of the old platoon, of the men they'd left behind in the fields of France last year, and the few they had led out and who were still with them, and he wished for the impossible. Bennett knew they would just have to make do with what they had, but he had confidence in Lamb. If any officer could lick them into shape, he knew it would be his. Hadn't most of them already come through Egypt together? He knew that some of them at least had the makings of good soldiers. Still, though, he longed for his fallen friends and prayed that these new lads would prove themselves capable of avenging them. Bennett had been right about the raid. Within minutes it was over. 2 bombs each, and that was it for the 6-plane squadron. The dive bombers veered away like hawks up into the azure sky, and the men crawled out from their holes into the dusty air of the balmy April morning, coughing and cursing. Lamb and his men, C Company, the North Kents, or the Black Jackals as they were known to the army, had been given simple orders. Hold the pass. Do not allow the enemy through. His CEO, Colonel George de Russet, had made it plain enough to them at the last order group. "Gentlemen, here we are, and here we bloody well stay." Lamb knew that the Stukas had only been a taster, and prepared himself for what he knew was to come. This would be as hard a battle as he had yet fought, and perhaps his last. He shouted across to Bennett. "Son, Major, any casualties?" "2, sir. One's a goner, Spencer." Poor bugger, thought Lamb. He's the first, then. How many more today? He turned towards the young lieutenant in command of No. 1 platoon, Charles Eady. "Charles,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?